Hey guys, welcome to Group Chat. We got a hot episode. We got a new little merch item that just dropped that we're going to tell you about here once we get into the episode. We got a lot of news to talk about. We got a lot to talk about today.
Yep.
And then we're going to end with winners, losers, and content. So we got a hot one.
It's a fun one.
All right. You ready on it?
Let's go.
Let's get into it.
Cash.
Ladies and gentlemen, Group Chat.
Cash.
It's $1 trillion. Hot.
Maga D has a product drop.
Big launch.
So Maga D decided to drop a product and then leave the country.
Interesting.
Yeah, really interesting. I mean, what's funny is there seems to be a lot of American pride on D's mind.
Especially around this time of the year. We're fresh off Memorial Day.
Yep.
July 4th is coming.
Coming right up. And Maga D designed his dream hat. It's a Group Chat podcast hat that is just red, white, and blue to the gills. And then he left. Then he went out of the country. So it's me and Anand today, but we just thought we'd let you guys know we have a new hat. It's up on the website, Shop New Republic. And you'll see. You'll see. But let's just say old Donald would be proud.
And if you follow social media where D is, you don't need to disclose the location, but you can figure it out.
Yeah.
It's the most famous and richest people are in one city this week.
Yep. Interesting. Yeah. You guys are elitists. You just roll in different circles. You're a members tent. D's, fashion week.
Yeah.
But it's all the same. Both elites. It's ridiculous. So anyway, go check out the website. Hot new hat.
ShopNewRepublic.com.
ShopNewRepublic.com, designed by the great Eric Deluxe, who's just pumping out gems. And I don't know, depending on where you live, listeners, you might get really rewarded for wearing this hat, or you might get attacked. But either way, you should try it out.
As the most liberal on the pod, I'm pro-America. I'd wear a America hat.
That's good to know, actually, because I feel like in your circles, American flags have almost become like an alt-right symbol.
That's definitely not true. I hold a U.S. citizenship for a reason. I was born here.
Yeah.
And
listen, I'm not talking about you necessarily. I'm just saying your people.
America allows us to have conversation that we can disagree on. And in the old days, you could still be friends. Now you can't be friends.
That's true.
But you can still say what you want. Yeah.
We're setting a good example. But I think in some circles, the American flag is an alt-right symbol. But hey, who knows? You want to talk about some news?
Let's do it.
Let's start with some news that is close to, friends of the pod. Pharrell did his big Louis Vuitton debut. So he got, he took the role that Virgil was in as, I believe it's design director or maybe art director for Louis Vuitton. He had his big unveiling in Paris. But shout out to our good friend Todd Torso, who worked on he works with Pharrell in a creative capacity. So congrats to him as well. He was with Beyonce for years and did some really great work there. But big moment, Pharrell, I think taking that or, filling in that role that Virgil, it was a very big move when Louis Vuitton brought in Virgil for that. Obviously, Virgil tragically passed away. And, I think there was a question of who could possibly fill that role. And Louis Vuitton went with Pharrell. And now it's out to the world.
Yeah. So our good friend Todd Torso, from my understanding, worked in tandem with Pharrell in designing the fashion show that has basically been my entire social feed on TikTok, Instagram, everywhere I look.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to find a more star-studded crowd than what I saw on social from who was at the show.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting to see like the hierarchy of who the most famous people are.
Yeah.
So the most important seat is Bernard Arnault, right?
Yep.
The guy who makes it all happen. Right next to him was Jay-Z, Beyonce, Zendaya.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
And so if you think about who the celebs that were there, and we could list them all off, like LeBron and Savannah were there, Jaden Smith, Willow, and it's probably a good kind of barometer of who the most important and famous people are. LeBron was a few seats down from Jay-Z and Beyonce.
Yeah.
But Jay-Z and Beyonce were next to Bernard.
Yeah.
And then
Makes
Zendaya.
sense. It checks out. I mean, that's a pretty good, if I would have had to guess, pretty solid. Pretty solid.
Can you imagine the number of A-list stars that were at that event? Jared Leto, Kim Kardashian. I mean, the list goes on. Their publicists and agents and managers. I don't have the inner workings of how that works, but I'm assuming it's all them dealing with whoever's running it from the LV side on how to get who seated where.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
The infighting that must have happened.
Yep.
Based on your celebrity and where you get seated must have been an absolute nightmare for both sides.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure it was just pure chaos, especially because, like, there are those moments that, like, it really matters more than the other. So, sitting front row at fashion shows has always been a big deal. But I think that this show in particular was probably the one at Fashion Week that was like going to be the most closely scrutinized. I think because it's Louis Vuitton, because it's Pharrell, because it's Virgil, because, whatever. And so I'm sure it was just absolute madness. I mean, I definitely don't envy that. That's neither on the side of the publicist or LVMH. I mean, what a shit show.
Yeah, I would imagine some celebrities threatened to not show up given their placement.
For sure. I'm sure. I wonder how the process went down and who gets to sit next to Bernard. Or was it just, no, it's going to be Jay-Z, Beyonce?
It might have been Pharrell saying Jay-Z and Beyonce have to be next to Bernard. Maybe. I don't know.
I feel like Jay-Z, they've, especially together, they've done so much revenue. They were the face of Tiffany, which is an LVMH company. It makes sense not only from like a celebrity point of view, a Pharrell relationship point of view, but also a LVMH financial point of view. It's hard to beat. They got it all covered.
And then the after party, you have Jay-Z come out, Pharrell perform, and you can't really beat it. I don't know. That seems so cool. I wish I was there.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I'm curious how everything performs, how it does. Virgil's stuff, as far as I know, I mean, I don't know actual LVMH numbers, but like seem to be incredibly popular. I think Virgil really like breathed some new life into Louis Vuitton with his different approach. And it's big shoes to fill, man. And it's pretty interesting to me that, like, we saw Virgil coming up and like, in the Ben Trill days and he's part of Kanye's posse. But like when you see now Pharrell trying to fill those shoes, you actually see how impactful he was in that like 5-year span, where now at least to me, it feels almost like, I don't know if Pharrell can do it. I don't know if Pharrell can fill, design wise, can fill the hype and the stuff that Virgil was turning out. I mean, that was a legendary run he had with Louis Vuitton. So I'm just curious to see how it performs.
Yeah. And I'd say from a cultural standpoint, it's the biggest thing that I saw all week. And from a social engagement standpoint, LVMH couldn't have had a better response. Yeah. Every social media platform account, every major news cultural account was covering the show detail by detail. And it was just fun to see. That's like, when people like the Oscars, it's like stars get to be stars. That's what the show felt like. You have the most famous, important people, and they all look like stars, and it just felt super important.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll be honest, I got to tune into it. I've been off. I didn't. Was it yesterday that it happened?
Yesterday was when the content was rolling. So yeah, it was probably like last night. Yeah. That makes sense because I was seeing it all yesterday afternoon where it would have been nighttime Paris time.
Yeah, I got to check in. I didn't.
You should watch. I mean, I highly recommend people just go on whatever social media platform, just search the show. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, love it. Okay, good stuff. It's just crazy to see how much like, man, I even before my time in apparel, but like just the integration of like what used to be streetwear into like super high fashion is just what, I'm guessing Pharrell, you probably used to see at Magic, showing ice cream or whatever. I had a friend who was the skate team manager for ice cream, and Pharrell was always a streetwear guy, and now it's like literally just the top of the top when it comes to luxury fashion. It's just wild where it's went.
Yeah, there's even a clip that's all over social of LeBron walking in, Jerry Lorenzo, and them dapping each other up. Yeah. Jerry Lorenzo's in a hoodie, and I'm sure it's expensive hoodie, and I'm sure it's expensive pants. But to be dressed like that at an LVMH show was unimaginable 10
but don't
years
you
ago,
dare
right?
wear that to the country club.
Exactly. That's a good Jerry Lorenzo is one of the most influential designers in America at the most valued brand in the history of the world. The highest end brand in the history of the world. Wearing
an unapproved outfit for fucking El Cab in Reseda. Sorry, man, I had to do it. Okay. Here's another good one, and this is right up your alley, is Larry Fink over at BlackRock. So BlackRock, I mean, I don't even, for the listener, a massive fund that, I don't know, people have said like, they essentially own the United States. What's their assets under management? Do you know?
Yeah, so they manage, I'm going to actually break this down because it's actually really fascinating to see the scale that they are. So they manage $9 trillion of cash.
I mean, that's
trillion.
That's of cash. Like that's not like the value of Apple is, whatever it is now, 2 trillion, whatever. They manage 9 trillion of cash.
And then I'll walk you through the GDP, which is the economic output of countries.
Mm-hmm.
United States, 20.5 trillion. China, 13.4 trillion. Japan, number 3, 4.97 trillion. So they are effectively the third biggest country in the world.
Yeah, that's so I can't even wrap my head around it. Okay, so here the topic that we're talking about today is the incredible journey of Larry Fink when it comes to crypto, Bitcoin, that world.
Yep.
What do we got?
Yeah, this is what I've been preaching for over 10 years now.
Mm-hmm.
That everyone's going to come around and it's just going to take time because this is something that you can't box in. It's the internet. The internet is free, meaning anyone and anywhere in the world can participate in something. Yep. And time again, every time crypto crashes, 50, 60%, everyone wants to write the obituary. And it's just not true. So, Larry Fink, who he's the CEO of BlackRock, manages $9 trillion. 2008 says Bitcoin's nothing. 2022. So after 2018, he dips his toes in crypto. What does he do? He puts it in FTX, which I've been saying has been a fraud. Like, while the valuation was going up, I was like, this makes no sense.
Yeah.
So that's 22. He loses 24 million in FTX. 2023, he yesterday filed an application with SEC to get an ETF for Bitcoin and DeFi, which everyone else has dunked on. So I'm going to explain what an ETF is for people. So basically ETF is and they're using Coinbase Custody Wallet. Shout out to Coinbase.
Yep.
And an ETF is basically for anyone who has a stock market account at Schwab or wherever, and you're like, I don't want to get a crypto wallet. I don't want to go on one of these crypto exchanges. I'm intimidated by all that. I don't know if my money's safe. You can buy an ETF, which will be a publicly traded instrument that'll trade on whatever New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, and it'll
Yeah.
track the price of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So
An
it's a
exchange
way,
traded fund, I believe is what it is, right?
yeah,
That's
exchange traded fund.
Yeah.
So it's basically a way for someone who's like, I know crypto's in the world, that is something important. I don't want to learn technically how to like get a hard wallet, how to deal with Binance or Coinbase,
Passkey, all that shit. Yep.
yeah, and you're just basically buying. It's like buying Apple stock,
Yep.
and you can do it with your stockbroker. Any money manager can do it.
Same way there's a gold ETF, right? It's an easy
Right,
way to
exactly.
peg to the price of gold. Got it.
So what's interesting is the entire global, and so the cryptos ran up like crazy in the last 3-4 days. And it was actually like down after, I don't know why last week it was down. I think the Fed, whatever, risk on, risk off, whatever. And and it's basically run up. And if you think about it from a just magnitude standpoint, so they have $9 trillion.
Yeah.
And if BlackRock Fidelity is already in this game, they have 4.97 trillion under management.
Yeah.
And their clients, that 13.7 trillion I'm talking about, their clients are asking them, how do I get exposure to Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Why else would BlackRock and Fidelity be filing for these ETFs?
Yeah. Yeah.
So they want an ability to offer this to their customers because they're putting them in all these different assets. And the demand must be so large that even though they've been anti-crypto for the last 12 years, they're like, we gotta cave.
Yeah.
And so think about it from a magnitude standpoint, like the entire crypto market today is 1.17 trillion. That's all the coins.
Yeah.
Bitcoin's 538 billion in market cap, 583 billion given the run up. So, and this is just a Bitcoin ETF. So think about it. If BlackRock says we want to put 1% of our customers' assets in Bitcoin, that's 90
significant billion. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then if Fidelity says the same, 1%, that's 47 billion. So now you have a fresh 137 billion coming into a $583 billion market cap.
Yeah.
What's going to happen?
Yeah. I think we know. To the moon.
To the moon.
We're going to the moon. I mean,
Bitcoin
this is a
was
big
at
day for you.
16K. Huge day. It's basically like the same people who've said crypto's a scam because it was like the popular. These are the smart. They're not dumb people, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
These are like some of the smartest people in finance history.
Yeah.
And it's ego. They didn't want to cave. They should have caved 4 years ago and cornered the market and control all the Bitcoin.
Yeah. But also this is the moment, like, I think as far as we got on crypto in the last kind of run, when crypto was really popular, the biggest thing, we got some of this, but you've always said this, the biggest thing to come is still like these massive funds and these pension funds and things like that having exposure to Bitcoin. And when that happens, that's like a huge tidal wave of a step, not only because they just have so much money to spend, but also just, when the everyday person's retirement fund has exposure to Bitcoin or that's just a whole nother level of cash involved. And this is a huge step in that direction. And
when you think about how many funds there are in the world that are multi-$100 billion, it's actually kind of shocking, the number. Yeah. It's a lot. Like mutual funds, sovereign wealth funds, like the Norwegian sovereign wealth fund, I think is like 900 billion. Abu Dhabi's 900 billion. Yeah. Saudi is, in the hundreds and hundreds of billions. What do you think the conversations are this week after BlackRock did this?
Yeah. I also love this because even me, so I would say I'm pretty in the know, but I'm also pretty lazy when it comes to this stuff. So I think Bitcoin being offered like on Robinhood was like a big deal because it's really easy. It's essentially a Bitcoin ETF, right? It's, same idea, except for,
good idea. Good point. Sorry.
Yeah. But we did, as we mentioned, not your keys, not your coins, all that stuff. So technically something could go wrong, whatever. I think just the ease of use of being able to buy a little bit of this ETF is a huge deal for your everyday person. I think the whole thing about like we said, cold storage and pass keys and my coins and your coins, and it's just tough. It's the same way, like if someone told you, hey, go load up on gold, there's two ways you can do that. You can figure out how to go buy a bunch of gold bars and store them somewhere in a safe.
Yep.
Or technically you could buy some of the gold ETF, and you're doing the same thing in theory. And I just think that like just the ease of being able to say, I have exposure to Bitcoin. You know,
Yep.
I have $500 in the Bitcoin ETF. It's just such a big deal, you know?
Because if you think about every private wealth manager, and even let's just say the US, UBS, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Merrill Lynch, the amount of capital that they manage for ultra high net worth individuals, for companies, they're going to say they had no way of getting exposure to Bitcoin if your money's managed there. You'd have to go to Coinbase, you'd have to go to Binance, you'd have to go to Kraken, you'd have to go to Gemini, you have to go to all these, and they're not going to do it. Think about who these customers are. They're probably somewhere in their 40s or 50s, maybe 60s, that just sold their business and have $300 million, and they were just like, I'm not going to go open a Coinbase account and put 10 million in.
Yep. No way. That's why I think I think it's so big. Obviously, just the cosign of Larry Fink, the fact that obviously there's this much money behind it. Obviously, a lot of people are asking about it, but just the ability to like, there was always this weird thing with crypto of, like you just said, you got to go to these other exchanges, all these things, the passcodes, whatever. This to me, you know, I could see my parents being like, oh, we have Bitcoin. You know, what do you have? Oh, we have $100 in the ETF. You know, like it's now everyone can kind of participate. And yeah, I to your point, I can only imagine this is just great for long-term value of Bitcoin. I can't see how it doesn't. Not investing advice, but I can't see how we don't go way up.
Yeah, it'd be really hard to make the bear case today.
Yeah. Yeah, every time one of these dominoes falls, it's harder and harder to bet against it. And you know what? I actually love this because, like we talked about, crypto got really, really popular, you know, during the kind of stimulus COVID madness run, 2021, whatever. But it just, like, I feel like they almost ruined it. You know, like when FTX goes bust and all these people lose money and you lose money on your fucking Dogecoin, and like, I think the impression is kind of like, oh, crypto as a whole is stupid, or crypto as a whole is a scam, or crypto as a whole, whatever. And I just don't think Bitcoin was always different, you know, but it's hard to explain that to someone if all you see is people losing their ass on Dogecoin. And I just think this is such a move for like the confidence level. It's such a move in the right direction.
Even our great friend Jay Powell said Bitcoin is a real asset class today.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Damn, I'm surprised it's not up more. This is great. I mean, I might need to buy more Bitcoin.
I mean, it was at 16K in January. Remember we made our predictions and D say 12K at the end of the year?
Didn't he? He did. I think he did. It's at 30 today?
30.
Okay. Okay, next up, we got a freaking IPO. I don't know if you remember what those three letters mean.
Don't remember.
Remind me neither. An IPO? I'm not sure, but I remember they were really popular a couple years ago, and then it was just Cricket Town. I will tell you, I'm going to sound really dumb here, but like that's something that I didn't realize because I never paid much attention to this when I was younger, but like I didn't realize that when the market's hot, it's just IPO central and everyone's trying to get out and everyone's trying to, whatever. And then when it stops, it just stops. Like I didn't realize how severe it was. And so we haven't talked about an IPO. We haven't nothing for a long time now, but Cava is, here to brush the dust off and show everyone that there's a path. They IPO'd and they're on fire. This feels like 2020.
I'm pretty shocked about this because this isn't a company that's growing at some astronomical rate. And the stock doubled on day one. So they priced at like 2022 and it went up to like 43.
Yeah.
So it went from like a $2+ billion company to a $4.27 billion company.
Yeah.
And for people that don't know, Cava is basically Mediterranean Greek food that is fast casual.
Yeah. Like
So-
Chipotle of Mediterranean.
Chipotle, Sweet Green, and Mediterranean.
Yeah.
And the numbers aren't that impressive.
Yeah.
So they do 568 million, I think, in revenue. I think they lost 20 last year.
Yeah.
The revenue growth's only 13%,
Yeah.
which is not a growth company.
Yeah. Maybe people are just miss IPOs.
Yeah, there's all this there's also this psychological FOMO, which I've always said that when you have so many trillions of dollars that needs to be invested somewhere, the US stock market's still the safest place.
Yeah.
And fund managers don't get paid to sit on cash. They get paid a fee to outpace the market.
Yeah.
And I really think it's just a function of that. Do I think Cava should be worth $4 billion, $4.2 billion given the numbers? Absolutely not. It's trading like a software stock with restaurant growth numbers. Software, for reference, the reason why software companies and people that don't follow technology companies don't get the dynamic is that these companies are growing at like 60, 70% year over year.
Yeah.
And when you have these lock-in contracts, the cash flow in the outer years should ultimately drop.
Yeah.
Down to free cash flow positive.
Yeah.
A restaurant business they don't have the dynamic.
Yeah.
Like Cava's not going to have a 60, 70% year over year revenue growth without a massive loss in CapEx of just over opening stores.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just trying to look. I'm trying to yeah. I guess the goal here is that it's Chipotle, which is a $57 billion market cap.
That's the goal. And
It's the Panera co-founder, the old Panera founder.
I think he was a lead investor.
I mean, I get it. You're 100% right. Cava is Panera founder Ron Sheikh's next act.
Is he the CEO of Cava? I saw he was involved. I just didn't see in what capacity.
Yeah, I don't see either. I don't see quickly. I could read a lot more. But so yeah, I mean, you're right. Number one, you're totally right. Number two, I guess that is the long-term bet that people are making. This is a $4.2 billion company. Chipotle's 57. If they really are the next Chipotle, you're getting in at a great time now. But I just, I don't know. Look, who am I to judge? We saw a lot of these happen. We've made fun of a lot of, IPOs and things that didn't quite seem to make sense, or financials that didn't make sense. And sometimes we've been right, sometimes wrong. But I just wonder if people are just so IPO starved that there's just finally some action. And you just, like you said, you have all this money sitting on the sidelines and you just want to partake in the new party.
Yeah. So the founder is the chairman of the company. He put $300 million of his own capital to start the firm.
Jeez.
So he's a big bet.
I like the story. I'm rooting for him. How many locations do they have? Do you know that off the top of your head?
I believe 260.
Got it. I wonder how many.
And they're trying to open in 22 states. I mean, this is a very aggressive bet if you think it's next Chipotle. I get why Chipotle works.
Yeah. There's 3,200 Chipotles in the U.S.
Okay, so do the math.
Yeah, I mean, hey, if you believe
so
in
they're like just under 10% of the valuation with 10% of the stores.
Yeah, if you believe in the path, it's a good bet. That's exciting. I'm just happy.
Do you think in the U.S., because that's, I think, primarily where they are, I don't know if they have international, do you think Greek Mediterranean food can have that scale?
I don't.
I don't either. Because what sells? McDonald's, pizzas, Mexican food.
Yep. Yep. I
Because
agree.
it's like very high salt, sodium, tasty.
Yeah.
Anyone can eat it. A kid can eat it and be like, if you're like have a 7-year-old kid and you're like driving by, are you stopping at the Mediterranean hummus spot or are you going to Chipotle?
No, I think we all know that answer. I don't know. I'm looking at their, I don't know, man. I think it's ambitious.
Because if you think about it, just look broadly, because they're going after a customer that's, on the go, just driving by. Oh, there's a Cava. Let me pull over and eat some Mediterranean hummus food.
Yeah.
You would think there'd be way more Greek restaurants in the country. And I love Greek food.
Yeah.
But there just aren't. Like in our area, I can think of 2.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm looking at the menu and like, it's pretty, it's pretty Mediterranean. Like it's not some sort of simplified version or something.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hey, who knows? I mean, the biggest thing for me, I think, is I'm just happy to hear the word IPO, and who knows, but that pop seems a little aggressive.
Yeah. I think the way we just described it is how Warren Buffett invests, like very simplified.
Yeah.
Should there be 3,200 Greek restaurants, fast casual in America?
Yeah.
Like, are your cousins in Ohio craving fast casual Greek?
Hell no. Hummus? Are you kidding? I don't know what that is. We are, us and Warren have a lot in common. Here's a big one when it comes to business and the world of social media and tech. Like, there's this article here about something that's happening. Is a lot of brands are using TikTok. So whether they're using TikTok for marketing and they're working with influencers and stuff like that, or maybe things are just going viral kind of on its own that they had nothing to do with. The point is, TikTok is like a virality machine. And a lot of times those clips that go viral will tie in a product. They'll be talking about a product. Maybe they're playing a song. Maybe they're, whatever. There's some sort of product involved in the TikTok. And it's causing businesses to have trouble like keeping up with what's going on. So actually Chipotle, who we were just talking about, they experienced this where a TikToker had like a secret menu item that had, special ingredients just for this item. And you could only order it if you were in the know, it was off the menu. And it just went so viral on TikTok that it like messed up their inventory of ingredients because they just couldn't plan to have that. And it's obviously, shipping inventory to all these stores takes time. And so there's kind of this thing happening where businesses are, having trouble like keeping up with the trends of TikTok and capitalizing on these amazing moments, but also controlling inventory and stuff like that.
Yeah. So this quesadilla that went viral on TikTok was a combination of Chipotle's ingredients. I'm assuming someone just went in there and said, "Oh, if it sounds like they put some sour cream, some Chipotle honey vinaigrette. This is the best thing at Chipotle." Went viral. Everyone was demanding it. Chipotle had to face a decision whether to give in to the whims of TikTok or pissing off this like viral moment. And it appears that Chipotle caved.
Yep.
And they are serving the quesadilla is now a permanent menu item. And this is happening across businesses all over that are dealing with this dynamic that you kind of hack your way to some product and it goes viral on TikTok. Brands are forced to decide, do we stick to our guns or do we not?
Yeah.
And there's even fast fashion companies that, remember H&M and Zara, copy whatever's on the runway and then make it cheap and affordable.
Yeah.
So this company, I've never heard of it. Have you? I can't even pronounce it. Edikted. Etiquette?
No, what do they make?
Fast fashion.
Oh, no.
So they do 150, they release 150 styles on viral TikTok clips and see what goes viral and then they start to produce.
Yeah. Is it Addicted? Is that how you say it?
Oh, great. I should be smarter than that.
That's okay.
Addicted sounds right.
I still haven't heard of it, but I just pieced the puzzle together. But that's really smart. I mean, that makes total sense.
This is what Shein's doing. This is what Shopsider is doing. They're just scraping social media and producing based on that. And then once it hits a certain number of sales, they produce it at scale.
Yep.
And then launch it. This is why H&M and Zara are pretty much toast. Even though they're
Yeah.
massive businesses, it's just going to be a slow decline to death.
Yeah.
And it's interesting twofold that this is how fast things move with brands and how they have to keep up. And I would assume most Fortune 500 consumer brands probably aren't hip to game to move this quickly.
Yep.
And then secondly, we are at the whims of the CCP on what brands and what items in America kids are going to want.
Yep. That's the big news, I think. Because there's also just too close of a connection between the fact that they're making everything. So when
That's
you're
also
making everything, you also have access to everyone's IP, which has been a problem in the past. And you control so much attention flow that leads to sales. I mean, I'll tell you from our business, I've never seen so much actual, like, you know, you might go viral on like Instagram. I'm not quite as familiar with YouTube, but does it actually lead to conversion and sales is always the big question. And a lot of times it doesn't. And so the numbers look good on social media, but you know, people might not be making money. And but TikTok does in such a real way. And we deal with that a lot. We deal with the products that we, you know, when we send a product to Target or Walmart, it takes, I don't know, sometimes almost a year from like when it was bought or pitched to when it's actually on the shelf, and trying to time some sort of virality, because you do notice if something goes viral, you notice an uptick even at sales at big box retail where you're dealing with like thousands of sales. You will see it on next week's selling report, which is bananas to impact that much stuff. And I don't know. I think that the scary thing to go all the way back is when they have control, they have that much power to control buying habits, and they make all the stuff and they have all the IP. You just see a really easy recipe where with a few nefarious moves, you could change where the business is going.
Yeah, you could creator companies. Like, who knows what levers were being pulled by during the Bud Light virality. We don't know.
Yeah, you don't know. We don't know.
We don't
I've
know
seen
what
a
levers.
thing, like apparently like a large percentage of like the Christian Facebook pages are fake or something.
Yep.
Or like I know that they've used like Black Lives Matter type stuff that have been fake. I know, like, and some of them, you know, might have been Russian controlled or whatever. The point is, to your point, like, yeah, you have no idea what's fanning the flames of these different things.
And then on top of it, we've been in manufacturing for 20 years. It's really tough to make stuff quickly.
It's impossible.
So
at scale,
it's impossible.
Yeah, you can do a drop ship hoodie of, 200 units, but at scale you can't.
And in theory, if China wanted to bankrupt a major corporation, a consumer-facing corporation, I think they could via TikTok.
Or that, yes, definitely. And I also think that they could slowly steal business. So like we saw what Shein did, let's say to H&M, Zara, or Forever 21 or whatever. Imagine if you just did that 20 times to 20 massive American companies, you could have a huge economic impact in 5 years.
Oh, definitely.
And
you're dictating culture. You're dictating what U.S. consumers should want.
Yeah.
Like, how many people want the Quitadilla? I mean, it's ridiculous.
Apparently a lot.
I know, but without someone pulling the levers.
I know. That's the scary part to me, is like, I think that what people might not realize, like the listeners of this podcast might not realize, is the way that TikTok actually leads to action in the real world is unlike anything I've ever seen. And we've been doing this.
Is even scarier.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's the only platform that you've experienced that converts to sales week over week, not month over month.
at a massive scale. Like, I'll give you another example. I think 100% that the reason why Michael Block entered into the PGA, whatever, and no one knew at all, and then the next day there was a crowd cheering for him bigger than Rory, was because he went viral on TikTok in between. The story of who Michael Block was went viral, and all of those people showed up the next day to cheer for him. It wasn't on the local news. That's where I saw it. That's where everyone saw it. And that's like, I've just never seen a social media platform. I don't know why TikTok is like that, but I mean, look, when we started Young and Reckless before Instagram even existed. And so we used Instagram a lot during the Young and Reckless times. And yes, it helped. It definitely helped. But there wasn't really like a day where like, oh my God, we're selling out on the website. Why? What happened? Oh, this TikTok or this Instagram is going viral. That didn't really happen. It wasn't that severe. But that does happen on TikTok.
How antiquated when we were doing Reckless back in 2009, it was based on when the show aired, when Fantasy Factory aired.
Exactly. Yep.
That's when you'd see a lift in sales.
Yep. And I would wear shirts on the show. Our version of that was I would wear shirts on the show. We would pitch those shirts to PacSun 6 months in advance. That was still rushed. Get them in the stores. So the shirts we were wearing on the show were in the stores at the same time. That was the way. Now it's literally, oh shit, what's going on? The website's on fire. Oh, this TikTok is going viral, or this story went viral, or like Gabby Petito, or these Idaho murders, or like national news stories that have all the attention are coming from TikTok.
Yeah, the Michael Block story is a great reference point because that was not possible. That some guy hits a hole in one and everyone starts going crazy overnight.
Yeah.
It's the next day.
Yeah, they would have had to lead up to it. They would have had to have like, hey, this guy made it. He's going to be playing in September. Everyone go show up. It happened overnight. He was already in like the practice rounds and no one knew. No one was there cheering for him in the practice rounds.
Yeah.
It went viral on TikTok. They told great stories about it. And then the next day, the guy was bigger than Rory for a day. And now he's
and the next
lessons.
tournament, he was last place.
Yeah. And it's over. And we're on to like, oh, a crazy murder in fucking Missouri. Or the Quitadilla.
Yeah. Fascinating.
But yes, if you're a business, like you stand to gain so much by timing it right. But man, it's difficult.
And also you stand to lose so much because if you're a business at scale and something goes viral and you just can't make it, then you start having this negative feedback loop that people start hating on your brand. Like, why don't we have this? Yeah. And then you're making a decision, you producing, hundreds of millions of dollars, and you have to be like, do we cave? Do we not? What do we do? It's
and I've seen
scary.
this. I think this would be really hard too. I've seen this at some of the big box retailers. Is like, so now you have a struggle, right? Which is like, okay, the things that like aren't on TikTok aren't selling. The things that are on TikTok sell like crazy. So how, like, you also can't build a whole business model around what's going to trend on TikTok when you're talking about physical goods. There's just no way. You need too much lead time, too much whatever. So like finding that balance between planning and having a good calendar and a good schedule and trying to catch lightning in a bottle with virality is just very tough.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, love it. That's an exciting one. Writer strike's still going on. I admittedly am not very informed on like, are we close? Like, is this something that should be ending soon? We should find an agreement. But I mean, I drive past a lot of the studios on my way to the gym every day, and it seems that the crowds are getting bigger and the everything's ramping up, it feels like.
So the writer's strike started in early May, I believe, May 1st, if I'm not mistaken. And if you drive by the Fox lot off like that, where's the public golf course? Pico and Motor.
Yep.
And I've had to driven by there a decent amount, and you see like 10 people, 15 people. You drive in front of the Grove by the CBS studios, similar, 10 to 15 people.
Yeah, I go by North Hollywood. There's 30 people every day. And
I think Dee mentioned it on the pod. when this all started, like until the crowds get big, no one's paying attention.
Yeah.
And apparently today, thousands of people showed up at Pan Pacific Park to protest. And you have celebrities, you have like Tina Fey, you have food being delivered by like Snoop Dogg's team and Jimmy Fallon's team. They have like a band playing by, I think, someone who was on part of the band Weezer. So
Yeah.
they're making it much bigger, and there's no movement from what I read this morning that Hollywood is ready to acquiesce on any of the demands.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you have to make a bigger splash because no one's paying attention from the
Yeah.
business side of it.
You need TikTok. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, and I have no dog in this fight. I'm not exposed to the Hollywood world and whatsoever.
Mhm.
But if you just think about it from the business standpoint, I think it's an uphill battle from the writer's stand.
It feels like it, but it also feels like the industry's at a bit of a standstill. Like it almost feels like, I don't know. There's a bit of a pause in business that happens that you kind of have to, like, it's like the debt ceiling issue, right? Like there is kind of a moment where you got to figure something out. And that's what I think the leverage is, more so than like long term. And I don't know exactly. And kind of the AI stuff, I don't know. That feels tough. But I think that the biggest leverage that they have is business does come to a bit of a stop in a lot of areas.
It's also a lesson that you have to negotiate, and this is across all industries, when you're in a position of leverage.
Yeah.
So in 20 and 21, where studios are spending unlimited amounts of money, stock prices are at all-time highs, that's when you should have come in and secured the next decade of rights for writers
Yeah.
and actors and directors, because
Yeah.
they would have caved on everything.
Yeah.
Now you have stock prices. You have Disney that is down 10% over 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
And,
You're right about that.
And it's the same thing like in tech. You had all these private company founders, CEOs in 21 and 20 taking massive amounts of secondary, and their businesses are in the toilet, but they're rich now.
Yeah.
They use their leverage when investors are clamoring.
Yeah, you're right. Because the thing that was already happening before the strike was that with all these stock prices cratering, what happened was the conversation pretty much the conversation was, hey, all of these streamers are spending too much money. They're just making too much content. It's not working. Like we need to tighten up. And the way that you tighten up is to try to make less content that is better. And so everyone got really, really strict about what they were buying, what they were funding. It just got tightened up like 6 months before this whole thing started. And so that was already happening. And then this happened on top of it. So I think you're totally right that they were really close to a moment when they probably would have got anything just to keep the train rolling.
Yeah, the only piece that really has changed is the AI piece.
Yeah.
Because not knowing the streaming numbers, we've known this, everyone's known this, that they don't release the data.
Yeah.
In 21, they knew this. In 20, they knew this. In 19, they knew this.
Yep.
And we used to joke about how all the numbers were fake on this podcast.
Yeah.
We would say like an Adam Sandler movie, 150 million people watched it. No, they didn't.
Yeah. 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 I agree. You are right about that. I think you're totally right. I think if they would have done this in that window, I just wonder, that could have lasted 5 hours. Like, all right, come back in.
Of course, because they needed to keep their
rolling.
stock price up. Yeah, of course. Always negotiate when you have zero interest rates. That's the lesson.
Yeah, for real. Well, we're going to need 10 more years to be able to apply that, but you were right. Okay, last story of the day before we go to winners, losers, content. This is wild. I found out about this last night.
Just last night?
Yeah.
The biggest story the whole week.
I know. Okay. So there is a private company that made I guess we'll call it a submarine tour sort of experience.
Yep.
And it's this little submarine thing that, you hop in. It looks like it's controlled by like a Logitech Xbox controller, which is wild. which is like $50. But I don't know if that has anything to do with the story. You get in it and you can go explore the deep seas. And so there's a group of people, I believe it was 5, maybe 3 paid tourists and 2 crew members or, people part of the company, something like that.
I think it's a little more. I'll Google it.
Look at that and so they went to explore the wreckage of the Titanic, and sounds pretty cool. I heard that it's like $250,000 a ticket or something, like very, very expensive. And they go down to explore the wreckage of the Titanic, and they lose contact with the surface. So now what you have is this group of people in this pretty tiny little submarine object down at, somewhere around where the Titanic is. Very, very deep. I believe they said it would be the deepest like rescue ever performed if they were able to find them, who are just missing. And apparently now they're hearing on one of their searching devices, they're hearing tapping, like periodic tapping noises, like every 30 minutes or something, that seems like maybe it's the people trying to alert to where they're at. I read last night that as of last night, they had 40 hours of oxygen left.
I think it was 40 hours as of Tuesday morning. So I think by tomorrow morning, if they're not found, there's no more oxygen.
Jesus. Okay. So what you have here is like a worst nightmare scenario, right? You're trapped in we have no idea what happened to them. This blows my mind that I don't know. I know I'm going to sound stupid here, but there's not some sort of tracking device on the thing. There's not a fucking rope. Can't you just get a long ass rope? I don't know. The fact that this is even possible, this is the worst nightmare. I cannot imagine anyway, just going that deep in the ocean in a tiny little submarine. But to just be down there and all of a sudden, say, hey, the engine's not working or we're stuck. And you just have to slowly sit there while oxygen runs out for 40 hours. I would have rather it be we got 2 hours of oxygen left. We're going to get this thing over with. You have 2 days to just sit and realize that you're fucked. This sounds insane. And look, hopefully they find them. They haven't found them yet as of this recording, but it seems like the outlook is kind of grim. The people that I've seen don't seem too optimistic. This is just wild.
Yeah, I think it's obviously tragic, but when you sign up for something like this, you're going. So I saw something on social that more people have been to outer space than the depths of how far they wanted to go in the ocean.
So crazy.
So the risk was there. You have a father-son duo with a 19-year-old kid, and you have a billionaire British guy that's done all sorts of crazy explorations. And if they weren't billionaires and really rich people, I don't think it'd be the biggest story on the internet.
Yeah.
And I don't know, what are you doing this for?
I know, man. And this thing is so small. I'm looking at an image now of an illustration.
There's one toilet behind a curtain.
And they're crouched together for the most part.
Yeah. It's the size of a minivan, I think.
Oh boy. I hear you. What are you doing it for? I hear you. It just is the worst nightmare. I would rather, there's so many other ways to be trapped that I would prefer than this is a fucking nightmare. And how do you, once again, sorry for being dumb, but how the fuck do you not, is this thing not trackable? How is there an option that it just goes completely missing? That seems crazy.
Had you not have someone tailing you, you pay them, an exorbitant amount of money, build your own, another submarine. You guys are billionaires, to trail you just to make sure.
Yes.
If something went wrong, you could signal up.
Oh. So now it seems, okay, so site of the Titanic wreckage is about 12,500 feet below surface.
Oof.
So there's that. Also, it seems obviously, they can't find them. So it's a little unclear of like where exactly they are. So, and they've never, like I said, I think that I read that they've never done a rescue this deep. I think obviously there's challenges. You can't just go poke around that deep. So they're using sonars and stuff because you got to first find out where it is before you go that deep. You can't just go down there and zoom around. This is just, oh man. Okay. Well,
yep.
We'll keep you updated. Hopefully good news, but this just seems like the type of thing where like we might never find it.
That's also possible.
You know what I'm saying?
Didn't we never find the Malaysian flight that disappeared?
No. I think they said they found parts, but I'm not. It's a little fishy. Anyway, okay. Well, that is terrible. Let's get on to winners, losers content. Who's your winner for the week, Anand?
Winner is Victor Wembanyama. He's going to be the first pick in the NBA draft tonight.
Saw a video of him at JFK. He's just a star already, huh?
Star. He threw out the first pitch at the White Sox game. Really bad first pitch. You were much better, Drama.
Thank you.
He wasn't even close to the catcher.
Really?
And yeah, he just like went all the way off to the side.
Oh my
He's
God.
also 7'5". They showed pictures of the ball. It doesn't even look real. He just seems like a mythological figure.
Yeah.
7'5", can run, jump, dribble, agile, shoot threes. And then he's been doing some interviews. Kid's 19 years old. He was on the JJ Redick podcast. I saw some clips. He was talking about, JJ asked him, like, how are you not going to get caught up? We've seen a lot of athletes that come into this league with this much hype, this much money. How do you stay grounded? And he had this whole cerebral answer and how his mission in life is way more than, material things. And like, it just doesn't make sense that this is like the perfectly created athlete, we've seen since LeBron.
Yeah.
And it's wild.
Have you watched him play?
Just clips. The highlights are nuts.
I gotta watch because he just seems so lanky. It seems like dangerous. Like he seems like he could be injured so easily.
Yeah, totally. And I was listening to a sports podcast where, how the pre-game for the Warriors, it's just Steph shooting from like half court and everyone lines up to like watch him do all these like crazy shots. Apparently his pre-game workout is like with his toes. And he does like the equivalent of Steph Curry because it's staying healthy at 7'5". It's a really tough task.
Yeah.
And so he has these like toe drills he does pregame. So you're going to have all these people line up
to watch him play with his toes. Oh, man. So that means what? He'll be next year. He'll be in?
Yeah, in the fall. Yeah.
Who has the pick?
San Antonio Spurs.
Wow. I'm excited for that. Okay.
Yeah, it's just, you never know.
Yeah, you never know, huh?
You never know if he's going to be LeBron or if he'll be out of the league in 3 years.
That's so wild. It's so crazy to me that doesn't translate like exactly.
Yeah.
Like some people just can't play at that speed or get injured or whatever. It's just so nuts how that works.
You start getting foot problems at 7'5", that's a problem.
Yeah, you got to keep those toes loose. Yeah. My winner, who I think I'm going to give my winner is, even though I didn't do my homework, so that's my fault on it, but this Rogan RFK thing, I mean, I did see now and it's still going, like it just, everyone's talking about it. And it's just like, it's also, we're leading up to an election. And so everyone's super extra emphasized on it. But now I don't know if you saw, but like, there's this whole thing going on about, you mentioned like the debate, like him paying $100,000 to Peter Hotez to come debate on the podcast. And then like all these people jumped in and started doubling it. I think now it's up to like $2.5 million if this guy will come debate. And then Mark Cuban got involved and said, asking him to debate is stupid. And all these people got involved. And it just, I know that we've said it a million times, but like the power of this guy's fucking podcast where he like smokes weed and wears hazmat suits and takes mushrooms
Does
with
like
Post Malone.
mushrooms and
Yeah. It's
the
just
psychedelics. It's pretty crazy.
like, I know we've been saying it for a long time that like it's the most, the biggest media platform in the world, and it is, but like, goddamn, man, it's pretty crazy, the size and the impact. There's not any, CNN show or now any Fox News show or anything that could stir up this much stuff. So
No
that's the winner.
media platform could. Yeah.
Pretty wild. Elon started commenting, like, it's just nuts. Who's your loser?
My loser is, if this were to happen, Elon. So someone posts a tweet that we've talked about how Meta, Facebook, is going to launch their own Twitter threads.
Yep.
So a Twitter competitor. And then Elon fires back that Zuck just copies everyone and just kind of takes a shot at him.
Yeah, I like that.
And then someone said, better be careful. I heard he does jujitsu now. And Elon says, I'm up for a cage match if he is. Zuck would beat the living shit out of this dude.
Yeah, I think so. It's
I would
size. How big is? Do you know is there a size difference?
Yeah, Elon looks pretty tall. I'm sure size, height, and weight, but
Yeah, you can't really compare. Even a year of jujitsu, it's hard to.
I mean,
compete.
Zuck was training with that kid, Mikey, the jujitsu like expert. I've heard him on Rogan, the Italian kid.
Yeah.
Like, he's taking this seriously. He'd kick his ass.
Yeah, I think so. You know me, I'm the biggest fan of like whatever the most exciting outcome is. I wish there was a world where this could happen. I mean, it would be the dorkiest wrestling match. And I think Zuck would win, but man, it would just be a dork fest in there.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Holy cow. Okay. I agree. I think you're right on this one. You know what? I'm more than happy to give Elon the L on this one.
Okay.
And Zuck must feel like a fucking killer. Like when the type of people he's around all day, I bet you they like talk to him a little differently. I bet you he has like a new type of respect, especially when he did that tournament and, rolled against those like, regular guys, not some setup thing. I bet you he feels like fucking John Wick in his circles with those abilities. For sure.
Yeah.
Great for the confidence. My loser, I think my loser is just sort of all of us at the moment that are digesting media. I was looking for my loser. I was looking through some of the biggest news stories to try to find my loser. And it was just like Trump indicted, Hunter Biden, charges, this, that. Like, it is just fucking chaos, and it's only beginning. We're still pretty far out from the election. So, I think we're all potentially the loser. I want to give everyone a reminder, keep track of your screen time. Look out for your mental health here for the next year, because this shit is, if you really look at it and like everyone's fucking indicted and has charges against them, and like, it's just nuts. And we're still so far out.
I agree. I don't want to get into politics, but did you see that interview with Baier and Donald Trump on Fox?
No.
Holy smokes. It's on Fox News.
Yeah.
And the interviewer, Baier, goes, you said you're going to have the greatest people around you, and this is why you should be president, despite not having political experience.
Yeah.
And then he lists all the people that have basically disowned their name from Trump. And it was like a list of like 8 people. Yeah. And then he listed off all the insults Trump called these people.
Yeah.
It was fucking wild. Like, you said this guy has a small brain. You said this guy shouldn't be allowed to do this. Yeah. And just like the crazy, it's like basically like a 5th grade, like playground. This is like how you're insulting
like
people.
Auditing it. Yeah. Was it this week? When was it on?
It was like 2 days ago. But I agree. It's toxic. All of this is toxic.
Just be careful out there, Kathy's. When you see...
It's easy to get emotional for... I don't know. It's you're right. It's not good.
Yeah, it's not good. We got to be careful.
It doesn't even matter who you're rooting for or who you support. Either side, no one's going home.
No one's going to win.
no one's going home feeling more positive about the next day than the day before if you consume all this content.
Yeah. You got to be careful. And of course, we're going to talk about it here on the pod, but we always try to make it fun or, have a good comedic twist to it. Because if you really get invested, like I find myself getting sucked in, you can get sucked into like how vaccines were handled, everyone being arrested, Hunter Biden's a foreign agent and didn't register, this, that way. It's just like Trump is indicted for all this stuff he did, but look what everyone else has done in the past. Oh my gosh, everyone should have been arrested. Like, it's so crazy. And we're so far from election day. So
not even close.
Yeah.
Primaries haven't even started.
Yeah. So just, approach with caution. That being said, other than political, what's your content recommendation, Anand?
We touched it on the top of the pod. I think just go on social and search the LVMH show and the after party.
Yeah.
You could get 30 minutes of content. It'd be the equivalent of a Netflix show. You get sucked into the celebrity, the hype, the luxury, the fantasy world that we all aspire to be in.
Yeah, totally. I love it. Okay, I'm going to do that tonight, actually. Mine is, I just saw that the Righteous Gemstones is back with a new season on HBO. So I don't know, Anand, if you've ever watched that. It's a Danny McBride show. Really great, completely mindless television to not pay attention to who just got arrested in our politics. And I'm excited to watch it this weekend.
Oh, I need one more loser before we go.
Take it.
Meghan Markle.
What'd she do?
Jesus, you literally haven't opened your phone the last 3 days.
No, what'd she do? I haven't been on social really this week.
So Meghan Markle and Harry, I think it's Meghan Markle actually, a $20 million Spotify deal to do a podcast called Archetypes. And she was 12 episodes in. I don't know what was contractually obligated to get the 20 million. I don't know what you got up front. And on Sunday night on Bill Simmons' podcast, sports podcast, top 5 podcasts, and The Ringer is owned by Spotify. So he's a Spotify employee. And in the middle of like talking about the NBA, he just goes on a tangent how Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are the biggest grifters he's ever seen. Yeah. And he doesn't go into detail. And then he says, I want to get drunk. He's reaching millions of people. He goes, I want to get drunk one day and go on a podcast and talk about the Zoom I had with Prince Harry.
Yeah.
And his buddy, Joe House, who's on the pod, just starts laughing. Like, you got to do it now. But he obviously didn't do it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what happened? Like, you're a Spotify employee. You clearly know something about what's going on. He's very senior. Obviously, they bought it for like $250 million.
Yeah.
So you're just taking shots at Harry and Markle. He took shots at them a year before while they were still employed by Spotify.
Yeah.
And then news leaks that Spotify ended the Meghan Markle contract. And then reports start saying that it's an interview show. And she has all these famous people on the 12 episodes that have released. And it leaks that her staffers were doing the interview with these famous people and important people. Mm-hmm. Then she would just come in and do a voiceover of the question without doing the interview. And they would edit her voice into the interview as if she was doing the interview.
Oh my God. And they dropped her.
Can you imagine the amount of shit they talk about the royal family?
Yeah.
And you get a $20 million Spotify deal because you're ex-royal family.
Yeah.
And you can't even show up to the interview?
Yeah. And they just I just feel like they really monetize like all of the struggles in, culture, like whether it be racial struggles or these different things. Like, I just feel like every time you hear from them, they're such victims, of like what happened to them and how they were treated. You
could treat me like shit if you want to give me a $20 million Spotify deal.
Yeah, especially if you don't even have to be
names.
There.
Call me names. Call me whatever you want.
Oh my God. And Ari just interviews them and then you just record voiceovers for 10 minutes. Jesus.
Think about
Christ.
how much privilege you have that you think you could pull that off.
Yeah. Well, look, I will say you're going against your people right now because the super wokies just love Harry and Meghan. They've really pulled one over on them, I think, over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, they've get to sit down with Obama, Oprah, everyone.
Yeah.
I wonder if they still would now. I don't think so. I think
it's
this was
going to
the
start
tipping
to
point.
fade. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's a great one. I love that one. Man, it seems like the biggest, like it kind of reminds me of how mad I was about Monahan from the PGA talking about the 9/11 families. Like it just felt like kind of a cheap shot. And it feels to me as similar with the way that they talk about social issues and I don't know, things like racism. And like racism is very real for a lot of people and they really struggle with it. And I'm not saying that there weren't some like weird encounters or some bad encounters, but like you're getting paid $20 million to do a podcast. You get like your life is such a cakewalk. And I just feel like they kind of exploit issues that a lot of people actually deal with and kind of like try to sound like they deal with it too, you know, or they monetize it. It just is how it feels. And
it minimizes the people that are actually dealing with it on a daily basis.
Let's hear those stories. Like the story we heard on Rogan about the guy who was incarcerated. And like, that's a real story of a guy who was in prison for 30 years unjustly.
Yep.
You know, not someone who just collected a $20 million check to fucking do some voiceovers.
Have you heard Chris Rock's last special?
Yeah, the Netflix one?
Yeah, the one where he talks about
he did go in on
the racism.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
He's like, you're complaining about the racism. You married into the royal family. What did you not know?
That's funny. That's funny. That's why comedy's so important, man. I just feel like maybe that had like a little bit of, you know, like it starts kind of the conversation of like unraveling some bullshit. Because that was considered like brave when he did that, you know?
For sure.
Like people were talking like, oh my gosh, he bashed the royal family or bashed Meghan and Harry. How dare he? Anyway, that's a great one. Great addition. Okay. That's it. We went a little long. We'll do some more questions on Sunday when we're all together. Is D back on Sunday?
Javier? Should be. I think he will. Okay. Home Friday, Saturday.
Great episode. If you want to be MAGA, go. I'm kidding. If you support America, no matter what side you're on, it is woke on and approved. New hat, shopnewrepublic.com. Everyone have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you Sunday.